Exactly 68 years ago, on the night of Christmas Eve 1953, New Zealand Railway's steam locomotive KA949 was hauling an overnight passenger train from Wellington to Auckland. Unfortunately, they never got anywhere near Auckland, as a lahar from Mount Ruapehu washed out the bridge across the Whangaehu River in Tangiwai. A man named Cyril Ellis, who was a postman from Taihape, stood by the track and waved his torch to alert the KA's driver, Charles Parker. Sadly, the locomotive and 5 coaches still fell off the bridge and into the river, with the 6th coach, which was one of the first-class coaches, left teetering on the end of what remained of the bridge. This was the worst rail disaster in New Zealand's history, with 151 people killed. This included KA949's crew of driver Charles Parker and fireman Lance Redman. But if it wasn't for the efforts of Charles, Lance, Cyril and the train's guard, William Inglis, the disaster could have been much, much worse. One especially notable loss was that of Bob Blair's fiancée. Bob was a New Zealand cricket player at the time, and he was playing a test match in South Africa when he heard of the disaster. Despite losing his fiancée, Bob still went out to bat and received a standing ovation. This was also the only NZ railway disaster in which a steam locomotive was written off and scrapped as a direct consequence. Fortunately, 3 of KA949's classmates are preserved, namely 935, 942 and 945. The disaster took place while Queen Elizabeth II was visiting New Zealand, and Cyril Ellis, together with another passenger, John Holman, received the George Medal for their efforts to save as many victims as they could. Her Majesty the Queen made her 1953 Christmas broadcast from Auckland, and during the speech she expressed her sympathy for the people of New Zealand. The railway through Tangiwai, which is the North Island main trunk, is still a very busy part of the KiwiRail system today, as KiwiRail do still run several freight trains along the line every day. A new bridge has since been built across the Whangaehu River, and there are now systems in place to warn trains in advance should another lahar take place. This was the case in 2007, and all trains were stopped nearby until the bridge could be inspected and determined safe again. Fortunately, the 2007 lahar did minimal damage to the bridge. A memorial has also been installed between State Highway 49 and the Whangaehu River. More recently, in May 2017, an additional memorial for KA949's driver and fireman was unveiled at the same site. This ceremony involved 2 steam locomotives, JA1275 and JB1236, bringing excursion trains down from Auckland and up from Palmerston North respectively. 1236's train was even carrying relatives of either Charles Parker or Lance Redman, but unfortunately I can't remember which one. There are also these 2 seats from Car Z preserved at the Railway Museum in Ohakune, which isn't too far up the line from Tangiwai. Car Z was the 6th coach in KA949's train, and this was the one that teetered on the end of the bridge before eventually falling in the river. More recently, in 2010, KA942 was disguised as her long-lost classmate 949 to take part in a film shoot. The production turned out to be about Bob Blair and the loss of his fiancée, and was made by Lippy Pictures. Otaki Station was dressed up to look like Taihape for the production, since the old station building up in the real Taihape was demolished many years ago. This video is dedicated to the memory of Charles Parker, Lance Redman, and the other 149 victims of the Tangiwai disaster. Thankfully, there are now measures in place to make sure a disaster like this never happens again. We will end with some footage of JA1275 and JB1236 on their excursions in 2017, as well as one KiwiRail freight service. Unfortunately, I am yet to film a train crossing the Whangaehu River Bridge itself at the time of uploading. Here's JA1275 arriving at and departing from Otorohanga on May 6, 2017. This locomotive was built by the North British Locomotive Company of Scotland in 1951. next day I was down at Taihape Station to see JB 1236 arriving with her excursion from Palmerston North, which comprised the rebuilt ex-British Rail Mark II coaches from the Capital Connection service. 1236 was originally built as one of the base J locomotives by the North British Locomotive Company in 1939, and used to look like what the preserved J1211 does now, although saying that, this was the original streamlining that the Js were built with. In November 2020, I was going through Tangiwai on my way down to Masterton, and whilst there I caught one of KiwiRail's DL class diesel locomotives on her way to Kaleroi with train 252. The pulp mill that this service went to is only a short distance north of the river. Thank you for watching. This was honestly a difficult video to make, considering how many people lost their lives on that horrible night in 1953. We will never forget the Tangiwai disaster and the memory of the victims.